Hey everyone, welcome to movishala.com. Today we are here to discuss psychology demo lecture. That is really very important subject for your UPSC exam preparation. If you are preparing for IAS, then that is some of a magical subject which will help you to score 300 plus marks easily if you follow some of the basic things. So let's go ahead with our demo lecture. That is one of the most important, the useful lecture that will give you the glimpse what sort of method I will follow to teach you all, and you will get some of the idea about that particular subject. Look, as well, introduction of psychology. Psychology is a Greek word psyche plus logos. Psyche means soul and logos means study. Thus, the initial meaning of psychology was study of soul. Later on, when William James used the mind, it replaced soul. Thus, on the initial manner, with the time to time, it was keep on changing, but at that particular time, it was the study of mind. Current definition of psychology as the systematic study of human and animal behavior came to be accepted. Right now, what we are accepting, we are accepting that you can have the study of human and the animal behavior in psychology. Then the real definition will goes like that. Psychology is the science of human and animal behavior. It includes the application of behavioral science to the human problem. Means that is some of the scientific method they use behavioral science and they use to identify what sort of human problems are out there. Now, historical origin of the science. Look, psychology's father, his whom is always asked, then the father of psychology will be William Wundt only. In 1879, the first psychological laboratory was established at the University of Leipzig in Germany, and he was the German philosopher and the psychologist William Wundt. He got birth in 1832 and he died in 1920. And as he used the first measure to accurately measure human behavior, so that first method was used by him, thus he is known as real father of psychology. A scope of psychology. Psychology do not have something wrong, but it is really very important. But problem is out there that the limit of its operation and the application, because human behavior is too complex and it's not rigid or it's not static. It's something very complex and it's alter on the time to time. So the changes which occurs on the time period, it make it really very hard to follow the psychological already applied approaches. The branches in the topic of and the branches topics and the subject matter with its deal, like psychology is not exactly the same which you follow at one place. It keep on changing place by place, so you have to follow it very wisely. It has many branch fields and subfields. That psychology is not only about animal psychology or the human psychology. Human psychology do have several branches, like our physiological need is something else, our psychological need is something else, our mental health is something else. Then these things keep on calculative with that things. So if you calculate them well, then definitely you can go ahead with this. Now let's go with the meaning of behavior. Like we are saying that psychology is nowadays is just about reading the human behavior, understanding the human behavior. Look, human behavior include three things. First, motor or cognitive activities, like we walk, we swim, we dance. That is the cognitive activities. Cognitive activities are calculated, or cognitive activities, like we have something like thinking, reasoning, imagining and learning. So cognitive is all about our experiences, what we do. So it is all about cognition, means we think by our learning process, reasoning we do with our learning process. The things which you learn is added in cognitive. If affective activities, like what we feel, like we are happy, we are sad, we are angry, as per that mood our behavior changes. Like today you are very sad, then you will be very negative and you will be very angry or sometime full of anxiety and stress. Then the human behavior trend to change, and they are bound to change with the time period, with the situation, with the condition. Like during swimming your behavior is something else, during walking your behavior is something else, during dancing your behavior is something else, during doing some other activities your behavior is something else. Like you are a driver of a car and your behavior will be very positive or negative, but if you are a race driver then probably you have a sportic and spontaneous behavior at that particular time. So these things keep on changing. And now let's go with evaluation of the meaning of psychology. On the initial manner it was the study of soul, with the time it's altered and then it came to the study of mind, then after that it came to the study of conscious experiences, after that it's gone for the study of behavior. Then these things keep on coming and keep on going, and that is something which we have to learn and think and see. Like the branches of pure psychology, there are two type of branches. Like first the branches of pure psychology and second is applied psychology. Branches of pure psychology have general psychology. Like general psychology is the general trends what is going on. Abnormal psychology, like what sort of stress you are having, why you are stressed, what sort of mental illness you are having. All social psychology is something like in the society what is changing, what is going on, what is coming and what is going. Like your culture do alter your psychological behavior, your behavior used to change with the social phenomena. Physiological psychology is solely depends on the physiological needs, like what sort of physiological needs you are having will give you lots of glimpse about these things. Like you have some of the cultural needs, or some of the sexual needs, or some of the other needs, then your behavior keep on altering. Like if you are keen, like rape and all things happens, or sex lust is going on, then these also alter the things, whether it is animal or human, things changes. Parapsychology is the biggest branch. It's deal with the rebirth and the past birth experiences and all. If you want to read this, then you can go with the Dr. Brain Weiss, and he wrote a very good book, Many Masters, Many Life, which will give you the real glimpse of parapsychology. Geopsychology is about the geographical condition, like what sort of situation it will raise to your things when the climate changes, or there is flood, or there is some other climate related pandemics or anything else, then that also changes your behavior. Then developmental psychology is all about age, like adolescents have some other psychological needs, childs have some other psychological need, younger have some other psychological need, old age people have some other psychological needs. Then that is the developmental psychology. Experimental psychology is all about using the experiment to identify your behavior, like using some of the psychological instruments and the tools. Then that is all experimental psychology. Applied psychology have some different branches, like educational psychology, what sort of education you are having, you are possessing. Like if you're going with the school, and the school psychology have different things, that why some students are learning well, why some are not learning well. That's all about the teaching behavior or the teacher's behavior. Like one of the psychological research did that some of the psychiatrists moved to a school and they just said that these students are very wise and they tend to be scored higher in IQ than the Albert Einstein. Then teachers behavior alter with them, means they think that what they are thinking much be superior than our own thinking. Then that perception changes everything towards their behavior. Like they were very lay students, but they start getting high marks, they start getting motivation, they start getting some of the positive approaches from the teacher. And the clinical psychology is what about the illness, mental health of doctor and nurses and the patient, everything comes in this. Industrial psychology is about workplace, work culture, working atmosphere, owner and employees relations. Legal psychology even have a part of criminal psychology, means if there is any person who is the victim or who is in under police custody and who have some of the crime done in the past and coming back to rehabilitation centers, these all are things come in the legal psychology. Military psychology is really very important example. Let's take some example of a military officers. Like we have a very famous example, Abhinandan went to just he was captured by the Pakistan after a surgical strike. On during that air strike his plane crashed in Pakistan and he was captured. but at any moment of time that military psychology helped him to gain his all positivity and he never broken, then that is harshness which comes with the military psychology. Political psychology means several political leader and our supreme leader have lots of blames and everything. If we won't have any positive approaches towards his mind, then that blame game will definitely end his political career as well. Then that politics also needs some of the political psychology, and it's really very hard to gain. After that, what is psychology? Psychology is a science of behavior. Yeah, definitely it is a science of behavior because it's used to read everything about behavior. Then psychology definitely is a science, yet it is a science because there was a conditioning, classical conditioning was happening when Ivan Pavlov done with a salivating dog experiment. Means what he did, he gave them a stimulus, he gave him a stimulus, he gave him a reward, and he gave him some of the moments. Then object, stimulus, and subject all was present out there. What happened in this experiment? He just rang a bell, and that bell was supplemented by what? Meat. Then when the bell came, dog starts salivating after the experiment. Then we tend to change his behavior from the real stimuli of meat to the stimuli of bell. Means by experiment, by some of the scientific method, we can alter the behavior of humans and animals. Some psychologists further described it as a study of experience that occurs inside an individual. उन्होंने कहा ही they said that things comes with individuals' own experiences and that change their behavior. Definitely it goes. Other psychology objected the inclusion. They believe that inner experience is too subjective to be studied with scientific laws. They said that the inner experience are something else, and we are really feeling very hard to study the inner experiences of any person by any sort of scientific laws. Efforts to make discipline more objective and scientific have resulted a definition of psychology as the study of behavior. Then we have some of the scientific methods and we have some of the examples which given that psychology is all about studying the behavior. Existence of such varied approaches adds the complexity to the field. Means there is not only one approaches like behavior, cognitive behavior therapy is behavioristic, cognitive, so cognitive science is something else, behavioristic or something else. So these all branches keep on, structuralist or something else. So parapsychology is a huge branch of that. Then that subject have several fields and that's created some of the complexities. Now the biggest question is that what is a behavior? Behavior refers to an observable overt action or the reaction of an organism. Look what is happening out there. Behavior refers to a observable, what you observe is of the action and the reaction of an organism. What sort of organism out there? What sort of behavior he prefers for anything what he observe and any action or reaction he does. Like psychology is a study of several type of behavior, each of which is of special interest to various type of psychologists. Look, let's suppose I am studying stress, then I will focus on the subjects those have stress and the reason of stress. Other person is targeting the happiness, then he will go ahead with that happiness field, not with the stress one. Then these are the basic tendencies which used to be changed. Key word in the definition of behavior is observable. Observable things are what we observe by doing anything. To explain and understanding behavior accurately, four fundamental characteristics must be taken into account. These are the organism, the motivation, knowledge, and competence. Difference between these four are organism. Organism is a biological entity, a human or an animal, its biological characteristics and limits. Look, what is out there? If you are reading someone, let's suppose Ivan Pavlov done an example of classical conditioning with a dog, and the dog was fond of meat. That's why only that stimulus was easily replaced, and the things learned can be unlearned also with the same method. Let's suppose you are making him learn something and you are keep on providing with the bell a grass, then that animal behavior won't alter with the grass because he do not know what to do with grass. But if you are altering anything in the behavior of goat or sheep, then definitely these grass will work better on these field, not on the field what we are having or possessing right now. That behavior limitations are there. Like if you are having, like we says now, that equality is something which we follow or which we do, but that things we do with the things which we have in our hand, we do not do with the things which habits are not with that particular animal or human. Like fish knows swimming. If you ask that particular living organism to climb the tree, that is not capabilities of a fish. Then we have to know their limitation, their biological capacities, what things they have to do and how they will do, and its nervous system, androgen system and other biological structure must be studied. I told you na, if you have fish in your hand, you says you climb a tree, definitely that fish will die within a minute because that particular living organism is not getting the water out there. Then the organism motivation. I told you motivation is the biggest reason of changing any behavior. If you are providing grass to a dog and meat to a goat, then that behavior will never alter or change. Then the motivation is the immediate reason by which we will change the behavior. Psychologists define motivation as an immediate force to act, energize, direct, sustain, and stop a behavior. If that particular motivation is strong, it will alter, it will change, even stop the behavior. To understand behavior, we must understand motivation which caused it. Behavior comes with motivation. If you do not have any positive motivation, you won't do anything positive with your behavior. Your behavior alter only with positive motivation. Knowledge of a proper perspective. One needs to understand organism perception to its environment, what he knows, thinks and remembers. If you are asking a monkey to solve trigonometry situations or problems, he won't be able to do. But if you give him some of the easiest puzzles, definitely he will do. Like you put him in a case and let's have example of a chimpanzee. You put him in a case and you never make him learn anything, but he have mind and he have own personal experience, and you put some of the tables inside and put that bananas up to his jumping limits. Then after some of the efforts, he will start finding some ways, and these ways will be got by whom? By chimpanzees. If you follow same field with a chicken, then he won't act because his knowledge, his thinking, and his remembering power tend to do something else. Competence. Competence is the fourth factor necessary of understanding of a behavior. Competence refers to the skills and the abilities of organism. How well it can perform a certain task, means it is clearly defined that how good that person will be to perform certain task, means whether they are capable to perform that task or not. If they are not competent for doing that, then how the hell you will train them or you will alter their behavior? Like if you ask a saint, like what happened to the Vishwamitra was tend to alter his behavior to the sexual lust by the help of Menika or Rambha, but his competence was in something else. Then he didn't. Like if you ask a monkey to swim, definitely he can swim, but he cannot do scuba diving for a month or a day or 24 hours because that is his limitations. The learning what you are giving, like you are giving a learning to a dog or a chimpanzee, then definitely provides something of its own capabilities. Like if you ask a dog to sing, it's not his capabilities. But you ask a human to bark, he can bark by learning that language. If you ask some of the birds to do so, they have the capabilities of changing their language or voice, thus they can do that. So do remember that what sort of skill and abilities that particular organism have, and do try to change that. Now, three basic goals of psychology is what? Three basic goals of psychology are to measure and describe behavior, means you have to measure and describe behavior, to understand and explain the behavior. What you need, you have to understand and explain the behavior, what sort of behavior is there. First, you have to measure that what was the reason of behavior and how they behaved. Then you will explain what was that behavior and how that came. Then you will predict whether you can control that behavior or not. Look, if anybody is behaving violently, then you have to measure what sort of level of violence is there. Then you will understand that why that person is so violent and how you can stop that violence. Probably his mother or father or some of the relative got killed. Like you see lots of dogs, they chase a car. Then their goals was what? You have to describe that behavior. They chase the car. But why they chase the car? Because some of their childs or some of their babies was rushed or killed by the car running. So they bark them to protect their future coming. So you can control that behavior how? To control the vehicles out there, or to control by putting them on a safe place so that they didn't come to the road till they do not have that much of mind, so that they can protect themselves. So these sort of prediction you can do with animals and humans both. Now, school and the thoughts which have the main perspective in psychology. First is structuralism. What is structuralism? It was started by William Wundt. He said a lots of thing, and that's really very good. He said we can divide the segment of minds. We can decide that that part thinks something else, that part thinks something else, and we can define behavior easily by this. What I think is that there was several physical scientific things at that time, and they used everything what was coming out there, like experimental method. So second, the atomic theory of matter. He said like matter have something same elements we can have. So he said that brain also have several elements, and that mental elements can to be identified and analyzed. Then that was something really very unique. The goal of structuralism was to identify the basic element or the structure of mind, and its goal was to create periodic table of mental sensation similar to the periodic table of elements. He said that elements have a periodic table same mind can have. If we change that mental sensation and if create a periodic table, then we can easily predict the human behavior. But he forgot that human behavior is really very complex. It's do not come by the mind, it's come by the experience, it's come by some other needs. That was something which was really very hard to find. But he used a method called introspection. Introspection was something very easy. What happened in this? They keep on asking participants that what exactly they are thinking by doing a mental task. Like somebody is viewing color, so two of the person viewing color will be the different approach. Like one is a painter and one is a engineer, or one is a singer. Then the singer won't give you a better design or better feeling or elaboration for that particular color. What painter will give, non the engineer, neither you will get from engineer nor you will get from other side. But if you ask that rather than to a singer or engineer, to that particular painter, he will describe well. Then that mental task what we are giving an introspection will be really very hard. Reading a page in a book, if I am a book addict, I will love it. If I am not, then I won't. Performing a math problem, everybody have different perspective and elements. Subject of examine, after that subject examined report of his inner experience, his verbal report would be analyzed in order to determine different mental elements. What they did? They did structures also used a newly invented reaction time instrument. There was a reaction time instrument to assess not only what the participant was thinking, but how long it took them to do so. Mean till that what time they are doing. Let's suppose that one discovered it took people longer to report what sound they had just heard than the simply respond they had heard a sound. Let's suppose tick 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 sound is going on. Then you heard a sound, yet what is that sound? it will take time, because that is some of your experience and perception which will goes in your mind, and you recall it, then you retrieve it, then you generate some information. Then both things are something else. Like I do that sort of clapping like this. You will say, you heard a sound? You will say, yeah, definitely I heard a sound. But is that a clap or something else? Now your mental perception will go on that whether it was a clap or a sound of a glass. So these two sound were different, but when your brain will act like this, then you will remember that both things were separate for me, and that sound recognition and explaining that sound will take a lot of your efforts. Then that things are really very thing. There is a difference between sensation of stimulus and the perception of stimulus. Sensing anything is really very easy. Like I tap on your back, then that sense that someone tapped, but that tap was from a stick or a hand or something else, that will take some of the time. I tap on a thing, you will feel that that is a sound. Look, I am telling you with the detailed example, like there was a sound like this. Then you will think, yeah, there is a sound. But if I ask that this sound is of what, then definitely it will take a lot of your time to identify that was a sound of a tap of hand on a glass table. So these things will take time, and that is what the perception of that is stimulus. And sensation is just a sound. Sensation versus perception is given out there. I already told you, you can so that what your sensory respirator says it is, and what your interpreting sensory information means, your brain will go with its personal experiences. Like if you hear any of an alien sound which you never heard in your entire life, then you will feel it's really very hard to identify that sound. You will say it is unique and I never heard before. But it will also come after a time, because your mind will keep on revolving things and replacing and reverting things, whether that sound is familiar to you or not. So Wundt concluded they are all mental structure by sensation, mental images and feelings. Sensations are the experience of a stimulus perceived through the senses. As always, mental images are the sensation like experience produced by mind. Means some of the mental images are there. Means you see something and your mind will feel. Feelings are something very emotional. Here, let's suppose you love someone, you will feel very great. If that person said no, then you will be very depressed. Then the feelings used to be changed and altered. An important aspect of structuralist approach was that it was rigorous and scientific. It was rigorous and scientific, as the research marked the beginning of psychology as science, because they used all the scientific methods of psychology, uh, physiology, physics was there, and that physiological things was added out there. Then that research method marked as the scientific method, and they demonstrate that mental events could be quantified. They said that that could be quantified in the future, and even today we are trying that. Drawbacks: the major drawbacks of structuralism is what that it focus on the structure and the activities of mind rather than the behavior. Look, behavior is the broader aspect rather than mind. They are studying the mind, but the right method was studying the behavior. Another drawback was it was not an objective approach, since it relies on individual subjective verbal report. Means what I am observing, I am telling you, like this sound is of what? Someone will say it is a door tap, someone will say it is a table tap, someone will say it is a wood tap. Then that subjective of a verbal report, what we say will be the answer of that. Such data was not useful for scientific studies. In the future time, it was never used for any sort of scientific studies so far. And do remember, if you study behavior rather than mind, you will identify the person in real. But if we are just studying that person's particular mindset, then that tend to change with behavior. Behavior change due to mind. But behavior is a wider aspect. You cannot alter that. So you have to study behavior for understanding the reason why that person is doing like that. Means behavior must be studied by the behavioral approach only. I'm not and describing any psychological aspect of the branch. Do not go that sir is telling about the behavioral approach. I'm not telling you anything about behavioral approach. I'm just telling that behavior is the wider approach what we do. Then that analysis of scientific data was observed, but that was never used. And that psychoanalysis, what the another branch which came with the Sigmund Freud, he said that the unconscious mind, which what the Sigmund Freud did, and wondered that it was something what we says is a very important thing. Was William Wundt goes with the active conscious mind, like, and look here is written that active conscious mind, content of conscious mind, and the structuralism you will go concept of content of conscious mind. But on the further lecture what we will go will be the psychoanalysis. It's of Sigmund Freud, and he says that human behavior is also changed with your unconscious drives, like something you want to do but you are not capable to do, and that will also change your behavior. Like you want to marry someone else, and you marry someone else due to the pressure of your family, then that love and affection which you want to give to a person you will never give to a B person, and that will alter a lot of negative behavior in your life. So these things can be carried in the future, and the next lecture of ours will be on the psychoanalysis aspect, what we will start very soon, and it will be continued shortly. If you like this lecture, definitely you can go ahead with that subscribe button, and you can join me for your psychological lecture. We will go ahead with fun and ease, and psychology is something which definitely going to help you. My name is Dharmendra Pratap Singh Rana. I am also teaching at mobishala.com, from where you are watching that video. Do remember that the quality education is never cheap, but that quality education comes rarely in your life. Do not waste your time by finding a lot of things on YouTube or Google. Just go ahead or stick to a quality teacher. Definitely you will crack your exam easily. If you like this lecture, please share, subscribe. Till then, God bless you all. Take care. Bye bye.